Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of VGC Off The Record. It's a shorter one today. It's kind of like a VGC Off The Record Reacts because it's only me and Chris here and we're chatting a little bit about big Geoff Keighley's Summer Games Fest Kickoff Live from last night, which was fascinating actually. It was a very big deal and today we're going to go through that and give our thoughts from VGC on last night's big Kickoff Live show. That's not the official title, by the way. I've added the word big there for myself because it felt big. It was genuinely quite exciting. Anyway, I'm your host Steven McInerney. And alongside me today is our tired old hack himself, Chris Scullion. How you doing, my friend? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Emphasis on the tired today. Shattered. So it was
do you feel older as well?
Oh, yeah. And I've always been a hack, so I suppose it's actually quite accurate.
I saw a photo last night, by the way, of your hand in water, literally. Is that how much Andy's been... We can slag Andy off, he's not here today.
I know. He'll obviously never listen to this. Legitimately, I've got like a recurring hand injury and it decided to flare up right before E3, which is really useful. So yeah, basically if I write too much, this hand just gets numb and seizes up. So I literally had it in a bucket of like ice water before the
so I can't decide if you want a big E3 or don't want a big E3. I'm not sure.
That's the thing. The life of a games journalist at E3 is kind of torn in the middle. You half of you is still like into games and you're still massively excited about what's going to be announced, and then the other half of you secretly. The devil on the shoulder is like, I hope this is shit, so that I don't have to write anything.
I'm the same. I'm the same kind of like I do. For anyone who doesn't know, I do a lot of football content as well. I'm a Man City fan, and like the only saving grace for me after the Champions League final was like, no one wants to watch any videos. I can do no work. That was it was awful, and I was devastated. But that was the only thing. I was like, I'm going to the Lake District and get away for a few days, and that's what I did. And that was the only thing. Sometimes you work dictates. You kind of want it easy, but at the same time, you want that good stuff. And to be honest, last night actually we got some good stuff. We genuinely did. Geoff Keighley, he pulled it out the bag. He really did. Of course, the headline was Elden Ring, but there was plenty more to discuss on Off The Record. And this is Off The Record every Friday. Here on Off The Record, we try and deliver you guys the most considered, most informative takes and all the big stories from across the world of video games. If you're a fan of this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, of course, you don't miss out on any videos. And there's going to be more this weekend, by the way, hopefully, depending on how healthy and how tired we all are given the E3 workload. So you can get some of our reactions to that. And the usual full length Off The Record will be on Monday after E3 starts to simmer down, if it ever does simmer down, of course. And you can check this out as well as a podcast on all the major podcast providers, so make sure to go and give us a follow over there. But today we're mainly going to be talking about Kickoff Live, because last night was a launch show under the Summer Games Fest tag, and it was good fun. It was genuinely good fun. There was lots of stuff going on, some crazy stuff going on, but we're going to start, of course, with the big headline. He did it. The crazy son of a gun. He actually did it. He got Elden Ring was actually announced. It's real. It's real. We've wished it into existence. We knew it was real anyway. But there's a trailer and it's coming sooner than I expected. And you share that same view, Chris? Because I mean, it's a surprise, isn't it? January? Is it going to make January?
Probably. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was pretty surprising for me as well. I mean, like, yeah, especially with all the COVID stuff and that going on, you would have expected well into next year, like probably like summer, even winter next year. But yeah, so January seems soon. But I mean, we don't know how long they've been working on this. You imagine since Bloodborne, this has been kind of in the works. So it'll be curious. I'll be curious to see if it gets pushed back. But they seem fairly set on it being January. So we'll see.
What did you make of the reveal trailer? I mean, it was a good trailer. It wasn't just a cinematic. They showed gameplay. It's classic FromSoftware. There was traces of Sekiro, Bloodborne, the Souls games are all in there. It was a big hype moment. I saw the reactions online as well. People lost their shit in a good way. I particularly enjoyed Timur's reaction from that was absolutely incredible and wholesome and wonderful at the same time. Are you a big fan of the From games?
See, to be honest, no. But I appreciate them. I'm not like one of these people who I know there's a kind of subculture out there who despise the games and think and hate the kind of get good mentality and all that. It's like, well, I would like to get into them. I don't have the time really, which sounds really like it sounds crap, but basically my free time is fairly limited just now, so anytime I play games on my own watch, I like stuff I can quickly progress through and not have to play over, like die, which I know will be the case with this one. Exactly, being a dad. So I love the idea of it, and I would love to properly get into them, but not yet. But that's not to say, I mean, like the trailer looked fantastic regardless, and yeah, it's up there now as one of the games I'm really looking forward to, despite me not having previously cared much about the previous games in the series. It looks the part. It looks phenomenal. The trailer was great.
I'm that guy who convinces himself every single time that he's going to get into it and finally enjoy one of those games. Like I do the same cycle as everyone else do. I tried Demon's Souls, tried Bloodborne, I bought Demon's Souls on the PS5. I always give it a go, and I always struggle a little bit, and then I put it down with every intention of coming back. I never do. And it's not because I don't enjoy them, because the world is absolutely beautiful. And one thing I will say is, and I don't think this is the same thing. I think it is different, because if people aren't familiar what this game is going to be, it's going to be more of an open world game. And of course, it's Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin. So it's got that kind of big tie-up, so that the lore and the world is going to be fantastic. And it's an open world game. So there is an element of that as well. I mean, for me, I do wonder if this is going to be... Of course, it's going to be for the hardcore games. It's going to be. But I know this game, I know Miyazaki is quite influenced by Zelda as well in general. I know he's a big fan of those games. So I'm wondering if you're going to get this brutal open world game with this dark version of Epona. He's on the horse as well. And you're going to get almost like dungeon-led kind of things. That would lend itself really well to that Souls kind of world. Because, once again, you can have those self-contained areas, can't you, within the dungeons? And then... would that change anything for you, giving it like an open world feel? Because it does for me personally, in terms of they're always brilliant, but it makes it more appealing, the idea that I can box off areas and I can come back to it as and when and dip in and out. Yeah,
potentially. I mean, again, for me, with my kind of lack of free time, the idea of open world terrifies me every single time. But yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to see how they tweak it, because there are a lot of people obviously saying, "Oh, it's just another Souls game." It's like, well, if it was. So what? That's fine. That's what people want. And B, it doesn't sound like it's going to be exact. It's going to, like you say, it's open world. They tucked away in the press release yesterday. They mentioned that it's going to have co-op. They kind of didn't explicitly say it, but they said like ride around on your horse, either alone or with a friend. And you're like, oh, okay, well that's new, because although they had kind of online, as I understand it, kind of online integration before, where people could kind of appear, you couldn't like properly take on the whole adventure with someone by your side. So that sounds quite interesting. So we'll see. It sounds like he's trying new things rather than just slapping tits and dragons onto Dark Souls. Which could be good. Not that
sounds pretty fun.
Not that Dark Souls. I'm sure Dark Souls has got dragons in it already. This is me showing my ignorance.
No, I mean, I think it looks incredible, and to be honest, I was really happy for the fandom online. Obviously, seeing the reaction. It's part of the event as well. And what I will say is, like, I did enjoy the reveal. I did enjoy Ryan Reynolds joking about it during it. It's silly, and he's such a little scamp, isn't he? But it was fun. I enjoyed those little moments and the references, and Geoff Keighley getting out a game present, because it's you want your game events to have a little bit of silliness. Personally, I do. I mean, I think life takes itself too seriously often, and especially with video games. Like, you want more of the the little knowing winks and the nods, and Geoff Keighley saying, "I'm allowed to say it now" and stuff. And I thought it was great as well that we got a big game like that, before E3 officially kicked off, because it could have easily just been in any of the other conferences or whatever. So it was a win. I mean, was there any other big wins for you, particularly because we'll go through what happened, but did anything immediately jump out for you from that show?
Joe, there's one for me, and it's a kind of left field one, because not a lot of people were talking about it, and certainly we didn't even cover it until this morning, because we were just had so much on our plate to get through. But then the next day, this morning I had a chance to kind of breathe and kind of watch through all the stuff again, and like the Evil Dead game looks fantastic, and that's like kind of, I'm a big horror movie fan, so I've got my like array of bad cheesy horror movies down there. So Evil Dead is like a series I've watched for decades and loved. So finally having time to because at the time when that trailer was shown last night, I was probably writing something else and taking screens for Andy and Thomas, who were doing their own stories and stuff. So you can't really concentrate on these things while you're working as it's on the go. But so I properly sat down and watched. I'm like, the attention to detail in this for fans of the series is ridiculous, because they're covering characters from all the movies and the TV series that was on, everything, and it just looks massively gory, which is what it's supposed to do, and everything looks authentic. So I'm well up for that, more than I thought it would be, especially because I'm not a big fan of multiplayer games, but I'm up for this.
Yeah. I love the voiceover, by the way. Bruce Campbell's voiceover was fantastic. Just like dropping, just calling everyone dicks for it. I absolutely loved it. It was charming and it was brilliant. It was witty and it was playful. And yeah, I'm not a big co-op or PvP kind of game either, but I thought it looked great fun, and it looked camp in how it should be. You know, it's Evil Dead. It should be silly. It should be brutal and over the top, and it looked better than I thought it was going to be. If I'm being totally honest, I wasn't expecting much from it, but it looked like a good Friday night game. If local co-op ever comes back to be a thing, I'm not sure if it's going to even have local co-op or not, but it feels like a kind of game it should be that. It should be, you know, a game you can sit and play online or locally with a friend and really enjoy. And that was a surprise for me, genuinely. I also had to laugh at some of the guest references and all that kind of stuff. If people hadn't known, there was a few celebrity kind of guests as well. Obviously, Mr. Kojima popped in for a quick Zoom call with Geoff.
Because he always does.
And I know this is really dark and callous, but I immediately loved Geoff saying, "How are you, friend?" And he just talked about Kobe straight away, how everything's awful. I was like, wow, like true.
Nice,
but then he started talking. Yeah, then he started talking about 9/11, and we're like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
What's he doing? But that's particular. I love also how he ended that serious conversation with it. Oh, and one more thing. There was no things prior. And it was just like,
one first thing.
One first thing. But it was wonderful. And also, I saw someone else say on Twitter, I love the idea of basically, this is Death Stranding getting a director's cut. The game, possibly the least cuts of any game ever, getting a director's cut is fascinating. I did enjoy, once again, though, the little, you know, the little box thing, the Metal Gear.
Yeah, that was quite funny.
It was good, wasn't it? Are you looking forward to the director's cut? Did you play Death Stranding?
I didn't.
Does it mean anything for you?
It's one of those games, again, that I waited to see. This is where a lot of people switch off the thing. I massively dislike the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
Oh.
It's something I should probably commit more time to, but I'm a big stickler for... I'm not a big fan of massively long cutscenes in any game. So since Metal Gear Solid basically it's like cutscenes ahoy, I really struggled to get into them all. So when Death Stranding came out, I thought I'm going to sit back and wait, because it appealed to me, but I wanted to wait and see what the feedback was, and it was like positive to mixed. So I thought, well, I'll wait till it gets cheaper. So I've actually, in the past few weeks and months, I've actually been looking, like, pricing it to try and get. I saw Argos was selling it for $7.99 recently, and I was just about to buy.
I got it for a $10 a couple of months back. Yeah,
so I was like, that might be time to bite. But now that this is director's cut's coming out, I might as well hold fire and spend an obscene £70 on it instead.
Do you know what? I only played about 15 hours of it or so before I got distracted once again by other things, and I enjoyed what I played of it. It was weird, but it was an experience kind of game. It was more, it was a walking simulator essentially, just deliver through the game, but but in a good way. And I genuinely quite enjoyed it, and it was very Kojima. There's too much going on at times, and it needed a cut. Ironically, we're getting an extended version, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I was hoping for a little bit more. Maybe he was never going to drop what he was doing on next, but it was still fun. I mean, what was your overall vibe of the show in general, by the way? I mean, was the show a success for you?
It was. I think it delivered what I kind of expected. I don't think I wasn't expecting bombshells left, right, and centre like you would usually get at E3, because though I appreciate that Keighley has a lot of contacts, you got to imagine a lot of publishers were kind of holding fire and saying, well, we'll throw you a couple of bones, but we're saving the big guns for later on. So it was what I expected. I could do without the musical guests and all that kind of weird shit. But again, on a purely selfish basis, they helped me, because they helped us kind of stop and kind of gather our thoughts and kind of make sure we hadn't left anything out while the conference. So from a journalist's point of view, those musical bits were useful, but from a gamer's point of view, I was just like, this is only an hour and a half, and so that's a total of 10-15 minutes gone, because we're sitting watching the Sonic the Hedgehog. No, and we're sitting watching the Sonic the Hedgehog Orchestra play the theme tune to one of the worst Sonic games where he turns into a werewolf.
Good song though. Good song.
Good song, yeah. It's quite a fat beat, but despite that,
yeah. Is that with PH? Yeah.
Always.
I did always. Yeah. I enjoyed actually. I must admit, I'd never really seen Sable, so that's I can hold my hands up there. But that looked beautiful. I will say Sable looks gorgeous, and I really enjoyed that song as well. Actually, Japanese Breakfast. I'd never heard of them either, but a really good band for the sounds of it. It just. I mean, I don't know if they're soundtracking the game. I think they are actually, but that's something I'm immediately interested in. I didn't think the Weezer thing particularly worked, if I'm being honest, nor the Sonic the Hedgehog interval, but I enjoyed that one, so I can be a little bit contrarian with that. Personally, I thought it was pretty good. Obviously it plateaued a little bit in the middle, I would say, and the momentum was lost a little bit. But they're always going to struggle, of course, with the big conferences, because obviously, Microsoft, Ubi, Square Enix, and Nintendo, they have their own events. They're not going to give them everything that they possibly need. But having said that, they started, of course, as well with the Borderlands spin-off, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is obviously huge. Gearbox premiere to start the show, which is described, by the way, as a high fantasy take on the loot shooter formula. Are you a Borderlands fan? And what did you make of that trailer?
I am a Borderlands fan, but I'm not a Tiny Tina fan, so I'm curious to see how much she features heavily in it. So if she's going to be kind of narrating the entire thing, that may be a struggle. So we'll see. But I'm conscious that I'm being massively negative so far, but it's just the way the dice is rolling.
I don't even like video games, there must have been something.
I prefer books. I'm more of a book man.
Yeah, more of a books guy. Just watch Evil Dead on loop, read some books, to get me Harry Potter going. There was plenty more though, but either way, I thought the idea of opening the show with that, and then of course ending with Elden Ring, they're big hitters, man. They are big hitters, regardless of what any of us individually think about the game. They're massive.
Definitely.
And, the little Jeff Goldblum thing was fun, silly but fun. The Jurassic World Evolution 2, we saw, of course. I've already forgotten what it's called. 2 Point Campus as well.
I'm definitely up for that.
I'd never played Two Point Hospital, but I was obsessed with Theme Hospital. I know it's a spiritual successor, but I really want to play Two Point Campus, mainly because I work on a Mac, and Macs are absolute nightmares for those kind of games, unfortunately. That's as soon as I get a new gaff, I'm getting a PC so I can play those kind of games. Ryan Reynolds popping up as well was kind of fun, and Metal Slug Tactics, I was really up for that. I thought that looked really good. What did you make of that reveal? I was not expecting it, if I'm being honest.
I wasn't expecting that at all. I love the Metal Slug games, so as soon as I saw the Metal Slug stuff, I was like, oh, okay. And then and it was like, oh no, by the way, it's turn-based tactics, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm curious to see how that goes. It's kind of been soured a bit, because I don't know if you saw on Twitter this morning the big kind of scandal doing the rounds just now is that some people didn't realise that SNK is now mainly owned by the Saudi guy who allegedly had the journalist executed a while back. He now owns control and share in SNK, so obviously the big kind of story now is don't buy SNK stuff, so that's kind of soured it a bit. But I mean, taking it purely, no, I didn't either. But obviously, because SNK, with the greatest respect to them, aren't a kind of AAA headline studio anymore. In the 90s, you would have followed SNK quite religiously because of the Neo Geo and stuff like that. But things like this just slip through because nobody's sitting 24 hours a day checking to see what's happening with SNK's business, who owns SNK these days. So obviously a lot of today's be like, oh, games journalists are avoiding this story. It's like, we didn't know. We legitimately didn't know.
Just didn't know.
No, but if you take it as a game itself, and obviously the people that are making this game have nothing to do with that, and there's a hard-working team trying to make this game for fans of Metal Slug, and if you take it on that kind of basis alone, I think it looks fantastic. They've nailed the art style. By all accounts, the music is going to be great. It's done by a guy who did some of the music in Sonic Mania and stuff like that, so it's going to be ideal. I'm really looking forward to it. That was probably the highlight for me last night. Yeah,
definitely. It looked wonderful. Of course, there's a whole bunch of announcements as well. We got there was a Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt Battle Royale, basically, which is fascinating. Tales of Arise. E3 trailer features a new region and powerful attacks and all that kind of stuff. What else is going on? Oh yeah, Koch Media announced its new premium label Prime Matter plus 12 new games, Payday 3 and a new Painkiller title, which is interesting. Do any of those titles mean anything for you particularly? I played Payday 2, didn't mind it.
It's going to be interesting because Koch Koch has got an event tonight as we record this.
Yeah.
So Friday night, 8 p.m, I think, UK time. Koch have got their own event. And they basically, last week, they showed us everything. The embargo's lifted now, so I can talk about it. They showed us, presumably, all the stuff they're going to show tonight, like the trailers and the footage. And there's some really interesting stuff there. Although, obviously, Painkiller and Payday will be the two kind of headlines, and certainly that's the titles we went with. There's a lot of interesting new IPs that they're going to show. There's the names escape me just now, but there's one that looks very much like Returnal, a kind of sci-fi Dead Space type Returnal thing. There's one they're going to show off that shows it's their first Unreal Engine 5 game, and the facial animations in that one look phenomenal. There's a few other ones. I can't remember. If you give me a second, let me bring up the story, and I can tell you exactly what it's called, what to look out for. But yeah, it's there's some surprisingly good stuff going to be shown at that. Assuming it's the same stuff that they're going to that they showed us last week, and I don't know why it wouldn't be, because they wouldn't have made all those trailers just for the sake of us press. Here we go, right, Koch Media Prime Matter. So the game I was talking about was Project Echoes of the End. So it's a third-person action-adventure game using Unreal Engine 5, and it looks... We've actually got a screenshot up of it so far. On VGC, on the article about Koch Media's premium label Prime Matter, there's a screenshot for it in the middle, if anyone wants to have a look at that. So yeah, there's that. Yes, absolutely. There's stuff like Encased, which is like a Fallout style, like original Fallout 1 style RPG, which looks cool. Nice. Scars Above, I think that's the one that looked like Returnal. So yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff. There's one called Gungrave Gore, and they just showed like a really brief trailer for that, but it looked really, really stylish. So there's a lot of really kind of cool stuff worth watching tonight. If you're the sort of person who just wants games that you've heard of, you're going to be disappointed at the Koch thing, because there's pretty much all the games are stuff you won't have heard of. But if you're interested in seeing new IP that you've not seen before, and there's some genuinely interesting stuff tonight that'll be worth a watch.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that'll be a good.
I totally forgot as well about the new debut, the new studio, the debut, Deviation Games. Two studio heads, former Call of Duty studio heads, Black Ops veterans, Dave Anthony and Jason Blundell were on. I love hearing. Pretty certain it was a Scouse accent alongside Geoff Keighley was absolutely wonderful. But chatting away about their new studio, Deviation Games, and of course with their experience. And they're going to be working alongside PlayStation, which is interesting because I would say one thing they possibly lack, which sounds crazy when you think about it, as a first-party title, is actually probably a first-person shooter, because when you think of PlayStation's lead games, they're all third-party action games. You know, obviously Ratchet's just come out, even Returnal, third-party action game. You know, your Uncharted, your Last of Us, Spider-Man's, Horizon as well. So this is actually possibly quite a smart move, isn't it? You know, with their background, we could do. I mean, I'm presuming it's going to be a first-person shooter here, but with their experience, surely it's going to be a pretty smart move. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Although I did find it quite humorous that they basically turned up and said, "We've got nothing." The story was just like, "We're here."
Hi, Geoff.
But and also I noticed it doing the rounds was that one of them said at some point that something about them being involved in it from soup to nuts, which is a phrase I'd never heard of before. I had to look it up. Apparently in the 1800s, that's where it comes from, and apparently during big dinner parties in the 1800s, the first course was soup. And all the way through, and the final course at the end, instead of a dessert, would be like coffee and nuts. So apparently from soup to nuts means from start to finish.
I looked away for 1 second at that bit because they were just waffling away, bless them. And I came back on Twitter just to see just super nuts memes everywhere. I was like, what happened? What happened? It was bizarre. I felt like I'd gone through the rabbit hole a little bit, but I kind of enjoyed it. But once again, that's the kind of stuff you want from these kind of events. You want the silliness, man. We all remember this kind of stuff. And it was good fun. There was absolutely loads as well. Solar Ash looked pretty impressive. I liked what I saw of that as well. There was so much more, and I've already forgotten how much it was. But of course, you can find out all the big stories over at VideoGamesChronicle.com. I didn't manage to watch Day of the Devs. I know you did, Chris. I forgot to eat at that point, so I started eating some food. And what did you make of the Day of the Devs show? For what I can tell, by the way, there was loads of absolute bangers on there, and people were loving it based off the coverage I saw online.
Day of the Devs was excellent. They showed, I think 19 games was what they showed. If you haven't watched it yet, if people should go back to. We put a gallery up on VGC, videogameschronicle.com, I should say. And at the top of the gallery, I've put the video link up for Summer Game Fest. And if you click the video, it starts exactly at the Day of the Devs bit, so you can watch it quite quickly.
Wonderful.
There was some fantastic game stuff. It was a wide variety of both game styles and art styles, which is always cool when you see these indie. Sometimes when you get an indie presentation, you get like 15 games that all look like 16-bit top-down dungeon crawler procedurally generated things, and you're kind of like that. But these were like wildly different, like throughout, which was great. The two that appealed most to me were Despelote, which is like I think you mentioned it. It's like an Ecuadorian game about apparently set just before Ecuador are set to qualify for the World Cup for the first time.
2002.
So you play like as a kid, and you go down the park and play football. But the art style is insane. It's like I don't even know how you would describe it. It looks like everything's taken with a really kind of low quality monochrome gritty camera, but then applied to 3D textures.
Someone just said models. It looks like a hazy childhood memory, and it's absolutely spot on. Essentially, it looks almost, the backgrounds look almost photorealistic, but heavily grained to the point where it looks like a VHS tape has gone really fuzzy, which obviously then can hide the fidelity because it won't be obviously photorealistic. Yeah. But then you've got these wonderful almost silhouette kind of characters and heavily contrasted just white with black outline shadow characters. And I love the idea of just I remember the devs said that essentially, this is one of the ones I caught up with, they've made the voice actors just record their lines ad hoc because they felt it'd be more natural, so there was no real scripting, and it's all reactions to a kid essentially running around a park kicking a football because he's dead excited about football, which is just, it's so pure. And there isn't enough games about that kind of stuff, there really isn't. Genuinely wonderful.
It looks fantastic. The other one, and this may surprise people, this has been my highlight so far of everything that we've seen so far, was a game called Walk, and it appeared during that. And basically, I did more research in it, and apparently it was originally part of a project that a load of indie devs did called Haunted Demo Disc, where basically they made a fake demo disc for the PlayStation 1, and 25 developers made their own little kind of demos of games that were haunted. And it wasn't a legit PlayStation thing, it was a PC game, a PC compilation. They're all designed to look like PS1 games, but never played on a PS1. But one of them was called Walk, and that kind of was apparently the highlight of the 25 games. And now they're kind of making it looks like they're turning it into a full game, and it looks fantastic. It looks like a PlayStation 1 game.
I saw that one. Is that the horror game with the PlayStation 1 kind of like, it looks like a PlayStation 1 like Silent Hill kind of graphics, but it just looks amazing. And there's a video doing the rounds which I found that I'll tweet it later, because I was looking up to find out more about it, and they put up like a 12-minute version of it earlier this year, when it was part of this demo disc thing, and even the intro has like a fake PlayStation startup boot up thing, and the kind of P starts to come up, and then like a ghost comes out at the top of it kind of thing, and yeah, like you say, it looks like that. It's got this deliberate compression that a lot of old PlayStation 1 games have, where it's got this weird kind of texture over everything where essentially it looks a lot like a Resident Evil game, an early Resident Evil game, where the backgrounds are just badly compressed still photos, and then you've got a really basic polygonal character walking over it. But then as it goes on, more effects start appearing that wouldn't have been possible on the PlayStation, like kind of Predator vision and stuff like that, and it looks and sounds amazing. So that's the one that's my big surprise so far of the show, and I don't doubt there'll be some stuff to surpass it as the show rolls on. But yeah, I saw Moonglow Bay, which looked really good. A little RPG. It kind of looked like Harvest Moony kind of thing, basically, what I can gather. But essentially, it's about a little RPG about fishing. It also reminded me, do you remember that indie game from a year or two ago called The Tourist?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you saw it, but it looks a little bit like that graphically. It looks lovely. To be honest, I would recommend everyone just go and check out the Day of the Devs hashtag on Twitter, and also, of course, over on videogameschronicle.com, because the art styles for some of these games just beautiful. They're genuinely beautiful. We get into the point now where some of these indie games, they're not just games, they're just the art. They're actually art, and they're honestly absolutely stunning. Oh, big shout out as well for Chicory, that game there with the PS Indie. I've not played that, but it looks beautiful as well.
Yeah,
and that got a little kind of show, of course. Overall, enjoyed the show, Chris. Was it good?
Yeah, it was a good start.
Personally.
Yeah, it was a good start.
Good start.
It was a good kind of way to kind of ease us in, because it wasn't too. It started with a nice big announcement and finished with a big one, and everything in the middle was decent. And then obviously Day of the Devs was a nice wee kind of cherry on top. So it was a good kind of one just to get people into kind of festival season. The other thing which I totally forgot, which I'm massively excited about, was when Geoff Keighley said that Idea Xbox are doing their demo event again this year, which last year, last year I thought was incredible. Basically, last year they for a week they made 60 Xbox One demos available of indie games, and they're all kind of like show floor quality demos, not like final demos you would get just before a game comes out. So the disclaimers are like, look, these games are half broken, just so you know. But there was some incredible stuff I played there. So there's another 40 coming next week, and I'm going to play through every single one of them because like the world of indie games is massively exciting just now, and so many of them are going beyond this kind of the top-down twin stick dungeon crawling stuff, which put me off indies for a while. And yeah, so it's going.
These on Xbox, yeah.
These are all on Xbox One, yeah. So like some of them are Xbox One games, some of them are Series X, Series S games, but yeah, just over 40 apparently are coming. So that.
Joe, I went to game this morning. I got up and got there for 9 o'clock to pick up Ratchet and Clank. No free games at this end. These guys get them, but I don't. I went this morning. Oh, you pay for it. Pull your finger out, Andy. What you doing, man? Get those keys. But yeah, I went to this morning to pick up. I live in Manchester. I went to pick up Ratchet and Clank, and next to me, this guy walked in. A dad went, "This is a long shot, but I don't suppose you got any Series X, have you?" And they did. They literally had them in store. They had Series X, which is wild. So I was so tempted right there and then to go, I want one, but I thought, no, I'm getting married, I've got a mortgage, but I was so tempted right there and then just to buy a Series X.
I was talking to Andy about this today. It's on the Curry's website right now, and it's been on it all day. Yeah. I'm like, what? Have we already reached the point where Series X is readily available? And if so, is that because Microsoft has released a shitload of stock, or has the interest in it died already?
Is it because they're expecting a big demand? You know, is a lot being made available for this weekend? You know, because obviously we've got that big Xbox and Bethesda showcase, and we'll try, by the way, and do a live reaction. Not a live reaction, probably a reaction afterwards. Because these guys are going to be typing away, so I'll try and grab them 2 or 3 hours afterwards. Idea. But yeah, basically, what I'm saying is, you live in Manchester and you want a Series X, you can probably get them in the store. You could this morning. No, they had 11 left this morning. I don't know if anyone's going to bought them, but that's where we're at Friday, about 6-7 hours ago. Guys, thank you very much for watching this little short episode of VGC Off the Record Reacts, which I've just christened it. Chris, thank you so much for coming on, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, good, mate. Cheers. Thank you.
It's good. And we'll catch you very, very soon, hopefully, for another video after, hopefully, some big news over at E3. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you are new to our channel, or give the podcast a follow on over at all the major podcast providers. For now, though, enjoy E3, and we'll see you on Monday after the Nintendo one for a usual long episode of Off the Record. See you later, guys.